to chat real quick about boundaries because thanks to, some really big Instagram influencers who are amazing creatures and do a lot for the world, it means that there's a lot more conversations about this. So I'm not going to make that rookie error of quite literally blaming said psychotherapists and influencers for the outcomes that have now happened where people are doing all this work on their boundaries. I think it's an incredible thing to be teaching and doing and all that stuff. All that stuff. What I want to talk about is when people accidentally don't follow up their mini psychotherapy lesson brought on by reading a quick quote or a meme. They aren't in therapy, they aren't supported socially very well, um, but they start setting boundaries, which is amazing, like amazing, because, for some people, as an adult is the first time in their lives they've had the opportunity to set boundaries and they didn't even realize it was a thing before because it's layered. And I'm not a shrink, so I'm not going to break it down. Go see one. What I want to talk about is this myth where you can just magically set a boundary and it'll fix your life, because that's not true. And that in itself comes from a place of privilege, to believe that boundaries are the solution for everything. So what I want to talk about really quickly is maybe like different ways you can take ownership back, take responsibility back for boundary setting, because boundary setting is your responsibility. And there's a step that comes before the boundary setting that's not talked about enough, as far as I'm concerned. Therapy is great. Believe me, I've had a lot of it. I'm a special needs parent. I've had even more of it thanks to that. And I've attended therapies for countless amounts of years. So I'm just going to tell you in a really practical way what I would see as being your first step to set a boundary. Firstly, it involves setting the expectation. So setting a boundary without really clearly and cleanly setting an expectation and then stacking that expectation in a way to ensure that the other person is really, really clear on what's going on is setting yourself up to fail, and that's not fair. So take back ownership of your ability to set an expectation fairly, because here's what I see when someone tries to set boundaries. Yeah, but I told them that. And then, your natural response is, yeah, but did they hear you? Did they understand it? Was it presented in the right way? Well, it doesn't matter. I told them and they should know. So, that's technically accurate, but it's not going to get you very far in life or in business. So, how about we pull in a few different kind of methods to take back ownership for yourself? And then we do it in a really efficient way so that you don't feel bad when you set boundaries, or as bad, or you don't have to swim around in the sea of guilt around your own mindset, which in my opinion is a fallacy quite often caused by a lack of skill set. So when you're setting a boundary, let's change that conversation to let's avoid needing to set a boundary. A boundary is when you put a boundary is when you put something in place as a consequence because you don't want something to keep occurring to you that you have. I'm not going to say all the time allowed, even that's not true, but a boundary is when you put a consequence in place. Before the boundary is the expectation. Hey, do you know what? Do you remember the other day when I said that I didn't want you to do that? I really want you to take that on board and not do that. There's a really great example of one. Hey, let me delete some comment because nobody wants to talk about whatever they're talking about. Hey, do you remember when I said that thing in passing? I really feel like it wasn't taken on board the right way. Can we just make a time to sit down? And I just want to make it really clear what I meant when I used those words. When I said to you, I would like this to happen, I feel like we're not on the same page with what I need the outcome to be and maybe by when. So let's get together this week. When are you free? Those conversations are hard, right? They're hard. They take a lot of asserting yourself. And the reality is sometimes people don't listen because they don't want the consequences to kick in. So sometimes they heard you, but they're in their own sense of denial, right? So that's when your boundary kicks in. But you've got to give yourself a fair chance and take back ownership of setting that expectation and make it really, really, really clear what you want to happen, what you want the outcome to be, and layer it on a few different ways until you're really comfortable that you created a situation where they know what you wanted the outcome to be. Now, do you need to wait for the feeling that you're comfortable that you created enough? No, you can create something in advance. You can go, do you know what? I think this is going to be really tricky for me to navigate. This is a new situation socially or in this relationship or in this, whatever it may be, in your business or your life. I'm going to create a little framework for myself. I'm going to do it with this person, and then I'm going to ask this person, and then I'm going to follow up this person, and then I'm going to re-educate this person on what I need. And if they're still not okay with it, then I'm going to set a boundary, and I'm going to let them know in advance what that boundary will be as part of my little procedure I've just created. You can do this in your personal life. You can do this in your business world. You can do it in so many places across the board. And the last 6 to 12 months has been a massive reality check for me in boundaries and having things ready to go in advance and taking back ownership of what happens when nothing happens, when you have an expectation and the expectation isn't met, when you made it crystal clear and it still doesn't happen. What happens next? That's not mindset. What happens next is a skill set, and it's a skill set you have the right to take back ownership to learn. And that doesn't have to be off the Holistic Psychologist Instagram channel. That doesn't have to be off Millennial Therapist. It doesn't need to be off what seems to be your wise friend on Facebook that says really cool stuff. It can literally be you researching how to set boundaries. It can be you starting with a therapist. It can be you treating your executive related stress and trauma with EMDR and having a conversation with that therapist. So this stuff is all related. Like, enough of the shaming of people who don't have the tools in their tool belt to move forward with something and calling it mindset when it's literally just a lack of exposure and it's a skill set that they don't have yet. So if you're shaming yourself, or if you feel like that's happening to you and you don't know the next step to take in your business, in your life, in your relationships, take back the ownership to skill yourself up, because it's your responsibility, even if that's not fair and even if you didn't cause it. And I promise that there are tools around you and there are social strategies that can support you with that. So I hope this was helpful for you. I wanted this refer to business. I wanted it to refer to life. I wanted it to refer to everything across the board, because this is really, really, really important shit. I am so sick of seeing people mindset shame other people, of seeing people claim that if they just did the work and did what it takes or had what it took, or shaming how they show up in certain situations. And it's not fair. But at the same time, like, set that aside and take back the ownership to go, okay, how can I advance forward? Because if I hear one more person say to me, I know I just need to get a better mindset, I know there's things I should just be doing. Well, you're not doing them. And there'll be a reason why you're not doing them. So let's work together to figure it out. Because what I hate more than anything showing up over and over in my life, in my business, in my personal life, is seeing people not empowered to show up for themselves because they've experienced so much of this damaging behavior from others in the past. And it's not fair. So if you feel like there's something that, or someone that you could have been doing this to, or you could be doing it to at the moment, if there's someone that you could reach out to and maybe support socially in a better way. Social supports are really critical, and it doesn't just mean going around and babysitting someone's kids. Social support sometimes is calling someone when you know that something really huge has gone on, shutting up and listening to them without trying to fix it. That can support people so much. And the common theme behind every single person in business I've worked with that's made over $1 million, this is across the board, is that they know the power of reaching out and connecting with their community, with their friends, with the people that they have permission to have in their inner circle, and they vent in. They don't vent out randomly when it just outbursts. They vent inwards and they do it in a really structured and careful way so that nobody's getting hurt, but they get to be heard, they get to be validated, their needs get to be met, and it's super healthy. So find your people, um, skill up, learn how to expectation set before you start smashing down boundaries without a toolkit to support you to have that boundary be kept. And let me know how you go. I hope this helped you in some way. I feel like I just ranted. It was very strategic. I would have preferred to put concrete examples, but that's not very fair in conversations like this one. So I look forward to hearing from you. Send me a DM if this is something that you've been thinking about or working on, because this is something that really, really commonly comes up when you hit six figures in business. When you hit six figures in business, it's when you start to need social support the most. And in my experience, it's when the social support goes away. So I get that. I understand that. And I understand the pain of going from a multiple six figure business and trying to scale from there. I have been there with the poor boundaries. I have been there with the not knowing what comes next. And I have definitely been there with feeling like I can't take ownership and it's external and all the problems are external. So if that's you, send me a DM and let's see if I can